Afternoon, right? Yeah. So great to see so many familiar faces. Can you hear us okay? Yeah? So far, so good? Fantastic. This is actually one of my favorite events here that we do at Stone Age Farm. I'm always so proud to actually organize this event with the team. And what a team that is. I mean, the trio here next to me, it's wine legends, folks. So far right for me, rather, Phil Couturier, organic farming guru, viticulturist for Stone Age Farm. Next to Phil, founding winemaker, Jeff Baker. And next to me, fantastic winemaker, very gifted, Alejandro Zeman. So this is kind of fun. And it's a vertical tasting. It's basically a back to the future tasting. It's not fun just for you. It's fun for me as well, too. It's tasting through incredible wines of Stone Age Farm. I always say this is a history of excellence. History of excellence. So just to get my panel going, Phil, it's been an interesting year so far. What are your impressions of the 2023 vintage? What are you seeing out there? And tell us your prediction in terms of 2023 vintage.
2023 vintage is really slow and going to be very late, which is really nice after coming off of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 when we've had these massive heat spikes. You know, we're experiencing one today, but there's still a little of a chill in the air because of the fog that was in this morning. We're going to get Labor Day weekend off, and if we have that Labor Day weekend heat up that is really traditional in California, it's not going to it won't affect the harvest. Won't have it will have an impact because every heat spike does. But after the chill hours that we had last winter, the amount of rain that we had last winter, where the drought is broken temporarily or for the next couple of years, hopefully, I'm predicting a small but very tasteful crop. So we'll see how correct I am, but it's not going to be early. I'm taking Labor Day off.
So we kind of got together and said, maybe we should make wine, no compromises, not have a big organization or anything, just see if we can make some really, really top level Cabernet without having to compromise anything. So that's how we started out. We didn't know how good the grapes were going to be yet because they were just fairly new. So we didn't want to invest in a winery building, and we ended up leasing this space here in the winery warehouse district. That's worked out pretty well. So Mac had been he's always loved Bordeaux's since the 50s, really. So he was heavily involved with Chalon, which was pretty much a Burgundy-oriented winery. So when we started Carmenet, he was pretty excited that we'd be doing the Bordeaux-style wines. And we're both interested in old style that, there's not a lot of processing involved, that are made to age. So we're trying to make wines purposefully that will start to really come around in 10 or 15 years. I know that's kind of against the grain in the industry, but since Mac has pretty good income coming in, it really didn't matter how quickly we got established. And so we can taste some of these wines today that are now getting to that age and see what you think of them.
Thank you, Jeff. And Mac is not here, unfortunately. I wish. Next time, Dorothy, while you were talking, that's a team back there. This event wouldn't be possible without Dorothy, and Larry is here as well as Jimmy, Chris, and Thomas. Thank you guys for your help in setting up this great event. But let's go back to the panel here, and Alejandro has joined us since 2018 now. Right. This is your office, not too shabby. Love coming here, love the smell in the barrel room in particular. But walk us through in terms of the winemaking philosophy when it comes to crafting the Cabernet Sauvignon that we're about to taste.
Okay. So welcome everyone to the office. The way I see the crafting these wines is to allow the grapes to express the site, the location, and also the vintage, and at the same time craft a wine that can be paired with food. And also that can be aged. So that's why we're here today to taste how these wines age. And the way to do it, I keep learning from Jeff every day, is to actually minimize the interactions that we do with the grapes during fermentation and also during aging. So let the grapes express themselves. That doesn't mean that minimize means that we are lazy. What that means is that we want to attract the wines, make sure they're healthy, especially healthy, and let them be. So how do we do that? Well, actually the location is very important, and I'm very happy that you guys are here because you need the right place, the right equipment, and you also need the right personnel to do it. So since we are here, I want to do a shout out to Chris Bowman, who is sitting behind, and he's responsible for all the wines.
Hey, Chris.
Wait, please.
Good job.
So he's an engineer wizard, and basically he has set up what you see here. And when I come with new challenges, he'll solve them. So it's very important, the grapes, right, Phil? But it's also very important, the people that do it, and Chris is helping a lot with that.
Thank you, Alejandro. So this event is really two parts. The first part is you're actually going to be a wine critic for a day. I always tell people it's very rare to actually be invited to a vertical tasting. So that's why I said earlier, I'm always very proud to organize an event like this and invite you guys to participate in that event. So we'll ask you to, to go through the wines and taste them along with us. And then part two is a reception when you get to mingle, visit, take pictures, buy some wine ideally, and all that good stuff. But the exercise alone, if you open your packet, Dorothy, again, kudos to the great marketing materials. She's truly amazing when it comes to producing the materials of any kind of events here at Stonehenge Farm. You'll see there is a scoring card. So I'd like to spend maybe a couple of minutes here because we'd like to get your feedback today. Like I said, you're going to be critic for a day, all right? So we want your feedback, and as you see at the bottom, we want for you to choose today, like I said, which one is your number one and which one is your number two. So you have to vote, and then to help you out, we use this kind of scoring grid in front of you. Call it whatever it is, the 20 or the UC Davis at times. Alejandro, is it what you call it, UC Davis?
That was developed UC Davis. The
Exactly.
UC Davis
Yep.
scorecard.
Yep. So it's got steps, 1 through 4. And the first one is, you could see it's the appearance, the color, essentially. Okay? The color. And the best way to do it, if you go into a professional wine tasting, you'll have always something white as a background. So it's really to grab the glass, to tilt it away from you at an angle, 45-degree angle, and to look at what's called the meniscus. The meniscus is basically around the outside of the liquid. It's where the wine touches the glass. And to really concentrate on that part of the liquid, the wine. And an old wine, folks, will actually more rusty, brick. Over time, red wines will become lighter. Down the road, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, you'll be able to see through a red wine. You will. As opposed to if you look young, like 16 here, the meniscus is not rusty and much darker, much harder to see through. So it's not because it's an old wine that you've got to give it a low score. An old wine will be rusty. It's okay. Okay, so keep that in mind when you score it. Number two, it's a bouquet, the nose, as we like to cut, aromas. So it's to essentially pick up the glass and smell. Smell and ask yourself, simple as this, is it pleasant? Does it remind you of an old friend, in this case Stonehenge Farm Cabernet? Does it fit the mold, so to speak? Does it have any off-putting aromas? Hopefully not. Okay? And then I have this. I was hoping the aroma wheel again from UC Davis, which is kind of cool, but that's really helpful. Next year, you know what we'll do, Dorothy? We'll get some. This is actually very helpful. It really helps you to identify. It's like, okay, yeah, I know it's fruity, but you're stuck fruit-wise. Well, this is going to get you, to the end, essentially, description. Okay, what kind of fruit do you get? Is it fresh fruit? Is it dry fruit? Is it, okay, that's helping you. Little by little, you basically get to blackberry. You typically get to, essentially, plums or fig or prunes. That's very helpful. Same if it's like, okay, you said it's woody, but what does it mean, woody? Where do you get, where do you go from there? So very helpful. Next year, we'll have this to help you out. But Aromas, write that down. What kind of aromas do you pick out of the glass? Is it, again, pleasant and all? Give it a score, okay? Next, it's, yes, finally, you get to taste it, okay? Fun, right? So you sip it. We're going to get money back if you don't use a spittoon, so it's okay not to spit today. We have spittoons. So it's basically just take a mouthful, keep it in your mouth long enough, and try to, again, come up with overall assessment of the wine that you're tasting. It's Cabernet you're tasting. It's big. If it's young, it's powerful. If it's old, it's going to be softer. So don't give it a bad score. If it's an old wine, it's soft and velvety and savory. It's a good thing, okay? So keep that in mind when you give it a score. And then lastly, it's what I call the aha moment, overall finish. Okay, what do you give it? What do you give it? And then tally your scores. And then, it's tough, but we want to know, again, the feedback we're asking you today is, which one is your number one, which one is your number two? It's best to do it when it's all in silence, right? So we'll give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we'll do it together. But let's have fun, and let's have a toast again for a trio here, extraordinaire, and then let's get started. Cheers.
And this is a real positive aspect on the Stone Edge farm, the home ranch, is there's alluvial soils, alluvial rocks, rounded rocks, and drainage. My feeling is to grow great Cabernet in the hills or in the valley floors is you have to have drainage. You have to have drainage. You have to make sure that the vines don't have a wet feet, that the water runs through it, and on a heavy clay you get away with growing Merlot, but at Stone Edge Farm it's an old riverbed, and it really allows the roots to get down into the rocks and pick up the minerality that you have there. And then you get up in the hills, and you have to always look for the same aspect. Water that runs through, the vines don't sit in wet feet, and there's a little different sense of vigor, and the temperature changes and the diurnal changes in the hills is less during this time of the year than it is in the valley, and so that's where you get the complexity of both the different types of terroirs that we're dealing with. But to me, the most important part in growing Cabernet like this is to have good drainage.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. And you touch on that pretty quickly, Alejandro, but you said you want to make, that's part of the philosophy of Stone Edge Farm, a long-lived wine. And that means to make it tannic, right? So how do you go about extracting the tannins during the process? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I want a tannic wine, because
long-lived?
then you have to wait too long. Not 50 years, right?
No, I don't have 50 years.
But 7 years is a good time to wait. So I think you need to do a good extraction. That means that you need to get the right tannins, and in short, the goal is to actually soften the tannins. So extract them, but get the soft one. And in a one-sentence explanation, we do that by playing with the temperature of the fermentation. That's what I learned from Jeff, is you play with that, you can get those velvety, silky tannins that I think are great for aging the wine.
And if I could add something to that, I've, as an organic farmer for over 40 years, the soil's being alive, and tannin, you want tannin, you don't want it tannic, but you want supple, round tannins. And I think that comes from the time that we spend as we approach the harvest, watching the grapes mature. To me, if you think they're ready, you might wait another week for the tannins to even soften more. You want the tannins there, but you don't want them to be hard like a table. You want them I want them to be supple. And the soils, to me, make that suppleness to it, the softness to it, because the soil enables it to ripen longer.
Well, it's time now already. So we're going to start actually with 2016 first. So
Backwards? 16?
we're going to tally. We're going to tally
Okay.
the scores, right? So help me here. So who's picking 2016 as the number one wine today? How many number one vote? 1, 2. 2016 is your number one today. We have 2. Who's picking the 2016? Your number 2 today. It's a tie. That's okay.
I didn't pick the 2016 as my number one. I'm sorry.
So it's 1. Good.
Right.
Good. 2016, your number 2 today.
3.
3. All right. On to the 2014. It's your number one wine in today's tasting. We have 1. The 2014 is your number 2 today. 2, 3, 6, 7.
5.
No,
5. Oh, wait.
count 7.
No, no.
7. Come on, Alejandro.
I don't know how to count.
Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my Spanish for the day. 2012. 2012, you're number 1 today. Oh, yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Yeah, we should vote here too, right? We should vote as well too. All right. 2012 is your number 2 today. That's actually mine too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, good.
All right, 2010 is your number 1 today. All right. Some people know what they're talking about. I talk funny, I get away with murder around here. The 2010 is your number 2 today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 2008, who loved the 2008, number 1. 1, 2, 3, very nice. 4, 5, 6, 7. 2008 is your number 2 today. I am seeing a lot of patient people here. All right. How many is that? 7?
7, but we're counting different.
All right. Lastly, 2006 is your number 1 today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. And the 2006 is your number 2 choice today. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I count 6.
6. I count 6 as well. Count 6 as well. If I tell you that rather quickly, 2012, by a slight margin, is the number 1 vote of this group today. Someone was talking, you know, okay, and then 2008 with 2. Yeah, it's pretty tight. What do you think? It's close. 2008, 2006. You good in math.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Count overrule.
Okay. All right. No, that's close enough. Then it would be 2008, very close 3rd. And then it would be 2010, number 4, correct? And then 2014, and then 2016. Pretty amazing. I'll start by saying, to me, it's apparent from 12 on, it's like the wine has gained speed. It's just like it's reached the happy place. So let's go and talk wine by wine. Alejandro, since you're next to me, walk us through the 2016. What do you think you basically got out of the glass today?
To me, I chose 16, number 2. To me, it speaks Moon Mountain fruit. It has that minerality, that freshness, but also has that minerality that comes from the Moon Mountain fruit. Is 99% Moon Mountain fruit, and I'm just love this the freshness at the same time, but at the same the minerality that this wine provides. So I pick as my number 2.
Number 2. And back there, you really liked the 2016, right? Love you guys. Yes, 2 of you. To me, I like to think this is what I call the classic Stone Age Farm profile. It's chocolate-covered cherries, it's violet candy, and it's got from the Moon Mountain District that site-driven profile I'm looking for. Yes, it's young. but I see the potential. I own it. I'm not touching this wine for 4 or 5 years. I'm patient. I'm drinking whatever's left of the Saint-Cepage I own, right? I'm waiting for this one. It is not ready, but it's beautiful. It's crafted, but it's also such a good representative wine from the vineyards of Stonehenge Farm. So great job, you guys. Let's go to Jeff. You crafted that 14 straight Cabernet. Someone will point that out. There is nothing else in the Cabernet. Jeff, could you walk us through why that is?
Well, I didn't like the Merlot then.
That's a great answer. That's Jeff for you.
No,
We didn't have any Merlot that year.
oh, maybe that's it too. But, you know, we'll have like 20 different small lots, and you just pick the ones that you feel like
Sure.
will make the style of wine you want. And in this particular year, the other varietals I didn't think added that much, and we didn't have that many to work with. So this one came out all Cabernet, even though it's always nice to have other things on the label. But
Yeah.
we don't put them in there just to be on the label. Anyway, 14, I mean, it's just a baby. It's not even 10 years old. So I think it's still kind of reserved in the aromas. I think the aromas will get much more complex with time. But overall, it was a drought year, wasn't it?
It was the beginning.
drought
It was the driest year at that point in time.
Yeah.
We've ever recorded.
So I was really concerned when we were making it that, you know, it was so dry and it maybe wasn't going to be as intense as other years, but I think it's come out to be pretty good, actually.
Did that possibly influence the fact that you didn't like the Merlots that year? Were they adversely affected by drought?
I'm trying to remember, but yeah, Merlot it's always been a sort of a love-hate relationship for me because so many years it will, if you get a big hot spell, it'll just shut down, so it's not completely ripe. And it does well in cool, like really moderate temperatures. So we've been working to find the right place for it, and we pulled it out where we've had it before, and we now have some up at Silver Cloud at 1,800, no, maybe 1,700 feet, that we think is going to work out really well. So I have high hopes for Merlot.
And that Merlot, when I talked earlier about drainage, traditionally Merlot, so from Pomerol, the best Merlots are really heavy clay soils. And at Silver Cloud, we have this 2-acre block that the soil is black. The Silver Cloud has this mishmash in a 5-acre piece. You could have 6 different types of soil types. But on this, and I think I'm looking forward to that Merlot as it ages, adding a lot more, because to me that it keeps it a little bit cooler than what we'll get down here on the valley floor. At one time, Stonehenge Farms was 100% Merlot, and when we replanted it in 2004, we planted a block of Merlot. Then actually we cut it over. So I believe in 2014 we didn't have anything in our quiver of Merlot in the barrels at that point. I don't think we made it.
Well, that would explain it. No Merlot, so you can't add it.
So
well, that could add
the
something
choice
to
is
it.
made by somebody else.
Yes, Stephen.
How many times has it been, for instance, 100% Cabernet?
I believe that was the only time.
Stonehenge
Jeff?
Farm Cup, I think it's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it, the only one. Excellent question, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, we really want to opt for complexity anytime we can. So if some of these other varietals really give you that added different, you know, aromatics that combine the Cabernet Franc, and we haven't had much to work with until recently, and I'm real happy to have that back. It does beautifully up in those mountains.
We do have now all of them, right? The Saint-Cepage, the 5 varieties, the Cinco. We have them all, including Petit Verdot, finally, right?
We have 3 rows that we call the Philippe rows of Petit Verdot.
I know, even if it's going to be like less than 1%, is that what you were saying? Yeah, 0.1 traces
It
of Petit
depends on the
Verdot.
vintage, how it performs.
It's actually looking pretty good this year.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, looking pretty good this year. 12 with 11 first, yes, is it 11? Yes. So people really, really loved it. the 12. Phil, since you're here as well too, what would you describe
2012,
perfect vintage?
as far as a vintage goes, and I scored this second when we did our tasting the other day. I scored another one, 1 and 2. 2012 was a grower's delight. There was no heat spikes. There was a weather event that said, "Wow, what's going to happen next?" You know, and it was like there was no, you know, to me sometimes when I taste the wine, it lacks the tension of an exotic event that occurs. But it's like the way this is tasting today, it is. There's a bit of perfection in it. It's just really a relaxed wine, like it was a relaxed year.
So as a winemaker, when you're given perfect fruit, what's your job, Alejandro? Jeff.
I like Jeff's response to that one.
Jeff response. It's perfect.
To go home early and have a nice dinner. The wine, well, I mean,
What did you say
there
last
really
time?
wasn't a lot of challenge to 12.
Yeah.
The grapes were beautiful.
Yeah.
You fermented them. You didn't have to really adjust hardly anything. I mean, you just babysit, make sure nothing goes wrong. But that's like the perfect vintage for a lazy winemaker because you really don't have to.
There we go, the lazy winemaker. You go home early.
Yeah,
That's
I
so
did all
well-
the work.
yeah, that's right.
It's so well put. I mean, that's, right there. This is, and this is just long. I mean, how long have you guys worked together? Phil, Jeff, Alejandro? I mean, total here, 50 plus years for the three
Well,
of
I've
you?
known Phil a while, but we didn't actually start. I didn't have him start growing my grapes until '96.
Okay,
Yeah, 96,
long time,
97.
long time.
'97, that's right. We burned them up in '96 with the fire.
Yeah.
So when Phil zigs, Jeff zags, so does Alejandro. You zigzag, right? It's a French saying, whatever. Jim, Macho, you also loved the 2012, didn't you?
I did, yes.
You did?
Actually, as I'm retasting these, they're all
Sure.
changing.
They're all changing.
Yeah, they are.
That's what I said quickly as well, too, halfway through the silent part of the tasting.
Yeah, as I just retasted 12 now, I find that
Yeah.
it really has a lot of dimensions, a
Yeah.
lot more complexity.
Yeah. I mean, 11 first votes, pretty amazing, and 6 number 2 votes, so really amazing. And to me, yes, it's, I said it's in a happy place right now. It's just so savory. It's got that really beautiful sweet palate impression. It's satisfying. It's so fun. And as a foodie, wine is food at Stone Age Farm. I mean, I can do so many great things in terms of pairing here. I can be adventurous. I can do all sorts of things. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous wine. Balancing a wine. Who wants to touch on that? Alejandro, Jeff, what do we balance when we say wine is balanced? You're balancing what?
Well, with Cabernet, it's usually the phenolics that, you can have a numerical value of tannin, say 1,200, random number, but 1,200 tannin from one place that doesn't have the color to fix it, was picked too early or so on. Could be harsh, tannic, really unpleasant wine. If it's truly balanced, it means it's been picked at the right ripeness. The color has come way up. The color's combining with the tannin, making it sweet and long. So
Balance. The
that's a big
tannins,
factor, I think, in Cabernet is
Tannins
controlling
and-
those phenolics.
acidity. Yeah, I mean, perfect wine and just
Yeah, and don't focus so much on numbers of pH, acidity. You want to have them there when you taste them, but it's the phenolic compounds for these wines.
yeah.
And don't obsess with the pH of a wine.
No.
And, balance, walking is throwing ourselves off balance and getting ourselves back on balance. And I look at that with the grapes and wine, that they're constantly changing. The balance is within these certain parameters, and there's days like when it is maybe a good fruit day into biodynamics, and all the flavors just sort of meld. And I look at these wines, having tasted them on Tuesday, and my number one's different than it was on Tuesday. Why is that? Maybe because, like as you said, they're changing now, and you go back to them and say, wow, why didn't I get that part of the balance in that aroma, or that part of the balance in the flavor? And I think that's, when you're dealing with wines of this caliber, you're always seeing it sort of be elusive and then right in front of your face. So it's that contradiction.
I agree. Actually, to me, good wine is the one that is complexity, and complexity is what Phil just described. That you go, you taste, you go back, you taste something else, you go back. So that's, to me, what good wine is. A plain or a not so great wine, you go back and you keep tasting the same flavor. So that's what also makes fun.
Yeah, I include this wine in our tastings very often, so it's really one of my favorites. But it's only been 2 years, I would say, that it's just finally entering the drinking window. You say in France, it's called happy place. It's just now. It's just now. I mean, I'm comfortable saying this got still 20 plus years of age, at least.
Yeah.
It's built to age. It's built to age. There was a question. Hey, go ahead.
Question.
Yes.
Ken. How did you decide to take these specific years?
We don't have much of a library program anymore. It's probably the last year we're going to be doing the 06 and 08. I'm looking at Alejandro. He knows exactly how many we've got left. Not very much. But last year we did the odd years. And, to mix things up, we'd like to do something different. We realized that doing more than my experience, 8, 10, 12 wines, it's too much. It's too much, so we try to streamline also the process. And, we could be tasting until midnight as well, too, but it'd be a little long. But it's what we have, and to make it, fun, for everybody, 6 is a good number. A good number. Anyone else talking about the 12 that you all love so much? Good news is we still have some left, you guys, so, don't be shy. Don't be shy. The next one is the 2010. 4 number 1 place today, and 6 number 2 place today. So who wants to share the thoughts with us on the 2010 vintage, which I think is absolutely stunning in my book. Absolutely stunning.
If you don't mind,
Phil, go ahead.
I'll jump on it, because 2010 was a horrible growing season. And it was. It was cold, wet, rainy, and not too dissimilar. 6 and 10, there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of similarities to what we're going through in 2023. I think of all those 3 vintages, 23 is having a little more consistent heat spikes, but only 1 or 2 day heat spikes. But 2010, I picked it as my number 1 because there's a bit of a lot more an exotic aroma in it that differentiates itself from the other vintages, and I do believe it's from that long ripening curve that happened. It didn't get quite as ripe as we normally pick grapes, because it wasn't a California summer. To me, there's a real European style to this. These were all done based on a Bordeaux model, and this just sort of puts it over the edge. There's a little bit of a spice, a little bit of a pepper that's in the nose that are just to me, it separates it out.
Maybe that's why I loved it so much too.
It goes with your accent.
Bordeaux-like, you said it European. I mean, I got some fig here. I got some black olive tapenade. I got some cedar. I got some geranium. I got some mint. I got some licorice, but it's in the mouth. I thought it was just elegant.
Yeah.
It had a certain freshness and a certain balance, again, that I'm always craving for. Amazing. So a lot of you also like the 10. Who wants to share with us what they thought about it? No, not so much. That's okay. Anne, did you like the 10?
I did.
You did?
It was not my first,
What?
it was my first or second choice.
First.
It was very nice.
Excellent. That's fine. Good. Anyone else on the 2010?
To me, it's
Gorgeous.
got an aroma I often write out as forest floor. It's a complex, but it's like walking into a forest and you get all of these, spicy sort of tree-like aromas and compost-like aromas.
Yeah, the sweet compost.
Yeah.
So then with 15 years of age, it's the 2008 received 7 number 1 place and 7 number 2 place today. Alejandro, walk us through what you found was appealing in the glass for you.
Well, in this wine, I love those sweet tannins that I find Stonehenge Farm is characteristic for. But I'm also impressed by the amount of fruit that we still get in this wine in the 2008. I got cherry, I got not floor forest, but in this one I got fruit forest. But overall, I didn't pick number 1 or 2, but I think last time we tasted that was my number 1. So really impressed with this one.
What's the blend here? It's got 6% Merlot, so 94, lots of Cabernet, 94, 6% Merlot. For me, it was very grapey, again, black currant, had some coffee notes, truffly, and perhaps a little bit of earth as well too, earth tones, which again I associate with perhaps more European Bordeaux like in style, but I thought it was absolutely stunning, and still so fruit driven, so fruit forward. So yes, don't you like me now kind of wine, just truly amazing, truly amazing. So the 2006, which was the number 2 wine of the group today, with 8 number 1 vote today and 6 number 2 votes today. So I mean, I'll start. I think again, this is now why I love to say to people, all the roads lead to an aged Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And this is just, I mean, why I'm a collector. This is why I have a collection. I'm not Mac. I don't have how many bottles it's got? 30, 40,000. I have a collection, nothing like that. But I have a fair amount of wine. I really enjoy when the Cabernet reaches this kind of place here. It is so fantastic. It no longer gets you like, you feel like it's punch in the face. It's finesse. The French word is finesse, which is very difficult to describe, but this is it. And I'm not necessarily going to agree with you, Doug. I think this has so much time left here. It just, I mean, I've seen this wine progressing over the last 3 or 4 years. It's finally now, and it's the place where I guarantee you, this is going to stay the same for 20 years. I think I'm testing a petit lynch-bage here. At a portion of the price. Lynch-bage is where I spent a bit of time working back in the days, and this is just so pleasant, so fun. It's Cabernet at its finest. Truly amazing, gorgeous. This happened to be the first vintage of Stonehenge Farm, am I right, Jeff? Walk us through the vintage, perhaps, if you remember. And
Yeah, we actually made a little wine in 2004 and 5, but we didn't have the facility yet. So we made them in other wineries, and we decided we would make them second label. And this was the first wine that was made completely here. So the first Stonehenge Farm labeled wine.
the first one, yeah.
And the 4 and 5 were pretty young vines too, of course, at that point.
In 2006, I look back on that year, and maybe it could, because as Jeff talked about the father of the internet, but it's when Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth came out. 2006 and 2005 was a cold, wet vintage. 2006 was setting up for it. That movie came out. We had 316 degree days in August, a big heavy crop, and it seems like that when he talked about in that, but with climate change, or the accelerated climate change, and these episodic events, and it seems as I go through all these vintages, with the exception of 2012, I could pick out episodic events that occurred that we're not used to, or myself and not. I've been farming for quite a few years now. I'm not used to, but now it's something that, as a farmer, as a grape grower, as a wine grower, that is really defining our vintages. And in 2006, you know, it was a big lush year, and all of a sudden we had that 3-day spike. And now 116, we got that last year for 10 days straight. It defined the 2022 vintage. And so it is, you know, as we go forward over the next 10 years, it's going to be interesting to see how we as growers and winemakers adapt, and how our, you know, what we're thinking about and what we're changing and growing to make sure that these wines are around. And, you know, we have to figure out how to adapt with these events. And I go through every one of these vintages, and there's something that occurred that was, I could almost say, out of the ordinary. Well, you know, there's nothing like Cabernet. All right, I don't drink Cabernet every night. I drink it sometimes every day because we tasted it a lot. I grow a lot of Cabernet. But what we're experimenting with is how the trellising of it. At Max Vineyard, he's always been really innovative, and you know, we're setting up cooling systems. You know, so when the heat does get up to 95, 97 degrees post veraison, that will start cooling it to try to, you know, and figuring out how to deal with it, and hopefully, you know, we're growing grapes up at that 1,700-foot elevation at Silver Cloud, where 20 years ago, it was on the border of whether we're going to get it ripe or not. When we planted Stone Edge, it was the same thing. That's what it first went in as Merlot, and it's become a little hotter spot. So we have to learn how to adapt, and hopefully some of these north-facing cold climate, these cold canyons, Cabernet will get ripe. And that's what I think we'll play with. But as far as experimenting with other varieties, myself, I am, but it's how do you replace a wines like this? You know, we have to figure out how to keep this growing like in this fashion.
Back in the 60s and 70s, I think Napa was pretty much the sweet spot for Cabernet. They could get it really fully ripe. Sonoma was looked at as being a little too cool, you know, for grape cab. You had to get up in the mountains, and but if you were in the valley, it was pretty iffy. But now that's working to our benefit as temperatures come up. I think we're getting into the sweet spot or beyond it if we get 116-degree days. But I mean, anyway, we're in better shape to survive a little longer than Napa Valley, which is further inland, a little warmer.
Yeah, in
Is there a
Bordeaux.
window for Cabernet? I mean, if it gets too hot, will that have adverse effects on it?
Well, if you grow Cabernet in the Central Valley, like in Fresno, it doesn't develop much color. It tastes like crap. But so far, these hot years, I've been surprised that here we're still getting big color, big intensity. Well, we had a year, was that last year, that seemed like as hot as Fresno, but
Yeah, it
still, the wines weren't washed out, and we did get the color and flavor. So it's kind of a wait and see. I'm not sure why we're still doing as well as we are.
You know, one of the reasons, as compared to what's going on in Europe right now, we're not quite as regulated as Bordeaux.
Yeah.
You know, we do have the ability to irrigate. I was having a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a geologist from Argentina that goes around throughout the world studying terroirs, and he's concerned about the ability for Europe to dry farm in the future. You know, I was in Bordeaux last July. It was incredibly hot, and all of a sudden there'll be a dump truck. They'll be driving by a vineyard and dump a bunch of water on it because they couldn't irrigate it, but these things were occurring because the farmers have to, you know, they want to make sure their crop gets ripe. And so I think what we have to do is adapt, and we can't be quite as dogmatic as saying, oh, we're going to dry farm and only dry farm. We have to learn how to conserve water and how to use it properly.
There was some big news coming up. You were in Bordeaux, right? In Bordeaux, just a little over a year ago, they approved 2 new varietals in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And what are they? Tourigo Nacional and Tourigo Fino, which are from Portugal.
But, yeah, a bigger buried variety.
Pretty big news.
Yeah.
So now it's legal to plant Trigo Nacional in Pauillac, which is interesting. Huh? Oh, I know. But yeah, in Calistoga, I mean, when it's triple digit, like we had a few hot days last year. At 105, what happens when it hits 105? Could you walk us through what happens to the grapes?
Well, once it gets above 95, the stomata closes, the grapes go into wilt, and when it gets into 105, the canopy temperatures could be up to 120, 125, and you get an acceleration of ripeness, but not phenolic ripeness, and the seeds might be ripening, but the sugars are going through the roof. And that's at Stone Edge, they'll get up to 105, but then there's this diurnal shift. In the hills, what happens in August and September when you get these warm weathers, with these warm temperatures, it stays really warm at night. And that's, in the past that helped us ripen them in the hills a little bit slower, but that was something that we have to become more cognizant of, because the vine shuts down. The only vine that doesn't go into wilt is Syrah. It's a real cool climate variety, and it just keeps growing in the heat, and it'll burn itself out. But it's a little larger berry. But Cabernet is the most difficult grape to grow and grow properly, because you can't put 5 tons to the acre and get wines like this. You have to really sculpt the clusters and balance. And again, put the vine in balance so it can get through the heat without shriveling, and at the same time, pray for the fog to come in pretty quickly.
Tough, yeah. Yet it's called the king of grapes.
And that it is.
Yep.
And then Cab Franc is, the queen is a beautiful variety.
The queen of grapes. That's beautiful. Well, that's fantastic. So this kind of concludes the first part of this event, which was the vertical tasting. Awesome work, you guys. Give them a big round of applause. It's awesome. I mean, a couple legends here. Alejandro, just amazing winemaker, so skilled here. Amazing wines. Thank you for making such beautiful wines for us. It's a treat. It's a treat. So part 2 now is when you get to mingle and have more wine, obviously. There's a big spread of food. Chef Kyle made an incredible feeding trough back there. We're here, obviously, also to mingle with you, obviously, answer any more questions. Please do finish the ones in front of you as well, too. It's going to be, here all during the reception. But thank you all so much. Keep the little packet for you, and you'll see that some of the wines available. There is a packet here, which is kind of fun. We have a special on the 6 bottles. So if you're interested, add them to your collection. It's the last time, once again, we'll be adding the 6 and 08 to the tasting. So if you're missing those 2 bottles, take them with you, and the legends here can actually sign the bottles for you. We love to do that, but thank you all so much. Time for the reception now, and thank you all for coming once again. So thank you, guys. Cheers.